We've already worked the hardest that we could, already spent those sleepless nights trying to figure out how Napoleon conquered Europe and trigonometry. Our result is going to be out soon. It's not even justifiable to say soon, rather, it's going to be out in a few hours from now. We're all scared, aren't we? Not from our parents or our own selves, or even because these were the so called board examinations, but from the society, from the pressure that we're facing from the society. Because our result is being questioned by those char log that have already existed in our life from the very beginning. Those char log are gonna be asking our results. We need answers for those 4 people. The problem is comparison, actually. As I quote the famous phrase that's on the tip of most Indians, the XYZ student scored these many marks, the XYG ka ladka, the Sharma ji's son or daughter scored these many marks, they are going to this university or this college. This is the main fundamental of where the comparison has begun. Now, comparison has in fact become a hobby for Indians. I mean, if you have no work, you can just sit and compare and talk shit about the students. But it's so important to realize that when you compare the XYZ son or daughter to the child, that child is subconsciously beginning to hate that person. He'll hate him from the core. He's never ever going to like them again. And also, he'll develop an inferiority complex. He's going to feel himself as inferior to the other person. So when you're comparing, this is the skill you're developing in your child. You're teaching him to feel guilty. You're teaching him to think of himself as inferior. You're teaching him to develop hatred and jealousy for others. This actually begins from the very birth, from childhood. The aim of a child is always to impress his parents. He aims to impress his parents, and in order to achieve this, he keeps running. But you tell him that the qualities of XYZ are better than his, so he thinks that he couldn't impress you enough. I mean, Sharma ji ka ladka or Sharma ji's daughter, they're not even your kids that you're actually praising in front of your child and making him feel low. You're making him enter a rat race even before he could learn to walk. He's running a race early. This creates a problem. This is going to continue all throughout his life. He will always keep competing. He'll always struggle for something that he could never achieve. He can never be like the other person because he is unique. He has his own abilities. He's better in his own ways. And he's going to end up wasting his entire life trying to prove himself as better than the other person to you. Actually, the thing that you got a 66%, you got a 90% is not wrong. But what's wrong is you got a 66% and Sharma ji's son or daughter, the XYZ person's son or daughter, they got a 90%, they got more than you, they got 75%. That is where frustration begins. This creates frustration, and this frustration is the root for anger. This frustration is the seed for anger. We feel frustrated for days, for nights, for months, and this anger then converts to expression. This frustration, if expressed, it's leading to anger, which is actually the cause of so many rather worse issues. And if unexpressed, this is going to lead to depression, which it in itself is the worst, right? Limiting abilities of somebody to marks and tagging them as intelligent or nalayak, that is not what should be done. That is not what should be understood. That is not how it's supposed to work. Because children come through you, not from you. They are not your property to be conducted the way you feel fit. They are not your future investment. We've already worked the hardest that we could, already spent those sleepless nights trying to figure out how Napoleon conquered Europe and trigonometry. Our result is going to be out soon. It's not even justifiable to say soon, rather, it's going to be out in a few hours from now. We're all scared, aren't we? Not from our parents or our own selves, or even because these were the so called board examinations, but from the